For millennia, from Japan to Portugal, people have eaten squid. But Americans arrived late to the feast. Up until the early 1980s, most Americans viewed squid as fish bait, a slimy, unappetizing sea creature unfit for human consumption. But in just a few years, the popularity of squid exploded in the US. It went from relative obscurity, served mostly in niche restaurants, predominantly in cities along the American East and West Coasts, to just 3 years later, becoming a wildly popular appetizer on the menus of hundreds of chain restaurants across the entire country. This was a rapid transformation, and it offers several important stories. What took place in the minds and tastes of the American consumer is a wondrous tale about the magic of marketing. Behind that, there's a parable about a conservation campaign gone awry and the perils of mass-produced food. And along the way, we also get a broader history lesson about China's emergence as the global superpower of seafood, operating the largest fishing fleet the world has ever known. By the 1970s, U.S. fish stocks were on the verge of collapse. Overfishing had wiped out most of the fish near shore, raising the alarm for conservationists and the U.S. government. While stocks of traditionally targeted fish, like cod, menhaden, tuna, and swordfish, had plummeted, squid remained abundant because most Americans had not developed a taste for it. Alarmed by the looming crisis, Congress, universities, and conservationists began a rebranding campaign, the likes of which never seen before or since. Its goal? To convince Americans to eat this slimy creature. The federal government paid universities to figure out how to persuade fishermen, chefs, and American restaurant patrons that squid was delicious. MIT published a report calling on restaurants and grocery stores to stop calling it squid and instead use its more exotic name, calamari. Bread it, deep fry it like onion rings, and American consumers will gobble it up, the report concluded. They couldn't have been more correct. One hurdle standing in the way of squid going mainstream in the US was the time, difficulty, dirtiness, and cost of cleaning squid. In 1981, two engineering professors from the University of California, Davis, Paul Singh and colleague Daniel E. Brown, developed and patented the first automated squid cleaning machine. They were convinced that by automating this process, the cost of squid would go down and demand would go up. But the machine failed to sell in the US for two reasons, one small and one big. The small one was bad timing. That year, El Nino decimated squid landings off the California coast. The bigger factor, however, was China. Cheap labor and lax regulations on workers' rights and environmental protections transformed China into the world's sweatshop. The U.S. reliance on China to do this dirty job has only increased since then. Most of the squid eaten by Americans is imported from China, and most of that squid is fished from the high seas off both coasts of South America. It's then packed into refrigeration vessels called reefers and sent to China for processing. Even squid that's caught just off the coast of California is sent on a 12,000-mile round trip to processing plants in China before being sent back across the Pacific to U.S. consumers. As our oceans and marine life continue to be threatened by the climate crisis, squid are uniquely resistant to these threats. Ocean acidification, which is fast destroying many of the world's coral reefs, is meanwhile having limited effect on squid. Rising ocean temperatures from global warming are not killing off squid, but causing it to reproduce faster. Whereas most other fish stocks globally are crashing, squid numbers are going up. largely because overfishing has removed most squid predators like sharks, tuna, and whales. Compared to other animal protein sources, squid has a smaller carbon footprint, making it even more appealing to environmentally minded chefs and climate-conscious foodies. For these reasons, many experts point to squid as being a food for the future. But at what cost? Fishing is ranked as the deadliest job in the world, and by many measures, Chinese squid ships are widely viewed as the most brutal. They are ranked as the largest purveyor of illegal fishing in the world. Debt bondage, human trafficking, violence, preventable injuries, and death are common in this fleet. US and UN officials say that China's squid ships are more than any other type, the most prone to using forced labor. As the popularity of calamari grows, what toll will it have on the planet and to the people who do the work?